Anyone else notice that Tartarus is getting like this second wind, and all of a sudden they're going from being a bunch of jokes to it seems as though now they're trying to hold their own. Maybe Hiro realized the error of his ways of embarrassing these folks. So very action-heavy chapter this week with Fairy Tail. I felt as though it was mainly just fighting for the most part. Everything that was going on, it was like at the end you got a little bit of a setup, but pretty much everything that was going on in this chapter was fighting, and we got a little bit of the revelation regarding who Franmalth was turning into. And at first I was like, wait, what? Because the drawing in the beginning, it looked like Makarov, so I was like, oh, it's Makarov. And then we see that it's actually Hades, and that was pretty much who I called last week. So predictable, I guess you could say, or I just was on the mark, I don't know, but it was kind of weird because like he looks like him, but then like the body is like all flibbity wibbity, and I was just thinking to myself like, okay, bro, you're Hades, good job. But did Natsu already own Hades like 7 years ago? And then Natsu says it, and I'm like, well, there you go. But I will say one thing that I really liked about this chapter, opposed to a lot of the other chapters, is what I pretty much started off this video with, and that's that it seems as though Hiro is making Tartarus look a little bit better than they had been. Like, a lot of this arc, it was kind of like hit or miss. Either they did something, got fucked up, and then exploded and did, you know, some impact afterward. But it seems as though now with this chapter, where you visit every fight that's going on, or for the most part every fight, it seems as though they're holding their own, and they're finally not getting completely owned by Fairy Tail. You got Natsu, while he starts off, you know, pretty much kicking Franmalth's ass, or Hades, I don't know, what do you want to call him? We'll call him, I guess, fake Hades, or whatever. We'll call it, yeah, fuck it, fake Hades. He's kicking his ass, but then he's starting to come back, and he's kind of telling him, yo, don't underestimate us, and he pretty much absorbs his magic. So I'm curious if he has Natsu's magic, how the hell is Natsu going to be able to counteract? Because I'm not sure, can Natsu eat his own magic? Well, to be fair, Natsu has already broken many different barriers. Not supposed to eat this type of magic. He eats it, so I'd imagine Natsu can do whatever. At the end of the day, that's just how it is. It's Natsu. But really seeing some of the other fights, in particular the Sayla versus Mira fight, was actually interesting, because even though I really wanted Mirajane to just beat the living shit out of Sayla, at this point I was just like, whatever, they're all jokes. Sayla's actually holding her own. So the one time I'm like, yeah, you know what, Fairy Tail, do what Fairy Tail does and beat the living shit out of the villain. The villain is actually coming back. But I'm actually kind of glad, because not only is that fight, but there's other fights as well, and they're like actually stepping it up, and they're not getting their asses kicked. The Sayla versus Mira fight, Mira is going full throttle. Even Lisana's like, yo, she is giving it all she got, and she can't even really hit her. So I guess the power of love, because, you know, love is the strongest magic, and Sayla did love Kyouka, so to avenge for the embarrassment, she's gonna go full force. So I guess the strongest magic, love, is helping Sayla to fight off against Mira. Who would have thought? And Kyouka, after that embarrassing ass whipping, getting tied up, beaten up, and everything, seems to be having a second wind as well, because all of a sudden it went from she got the living dog shit beat out of her. I guess Hiro must have realized, like, yo, I can't be making these people look like clowns. And now she's fighting back, and now Erza's saying, oh, you're pretty strong, which to a certain degree is kind of like, yo, what happened? What changed? What made it go from that she was getting the living shit beat out of her to all of a sudden now Erza saying, yo, you're kind of strong? Was it just like Erza got tired all of a sudden? Was it that Kyouka was just playing with her to begin with? Kyouka was testing her out? What changed that all of a sudden, like, now she got a second win, and now she's giving it all she got, and they're kind of like fighting back and forth on an even playing field? But nonetheless, it's still good, because at the end of the day, I'd rather it be somewhere along the lines of that than just complete total ownage of every single person in Tartarus, because from the get-go with Tartarus, it's been this promise that they were great, and while a lot of the times during this arc there has been cases of them just being embarrassed, they're fighting back now, and I'm starting to like, you know, with this chapter, what it did mainly, it didn't have really much progression. It was just mainly fights. But what it did do is it served the purpose of pretty much showcasing that Tartarus isn't a big joke. They're actually fighting back, and I'm liking that. It's like, okay, even though they got their asses handed a couple different times, now it's starting to seem like Hiro is getting the idea of, yeah, I need to make these people look formidable. And what the fuck was up with that little panel of Lucy looking like she's trying to 69 herself? Like, Hiro, you love you some fan service. I ain't gonna lie though, Lucy looking pretty fit there, just saying. And then the ending, it was very interesting, because Wendy shows up to where Face is supposed to be, and she's gonna try to deactivate her or whatever, and Ezel, or Ezel, I don't know how to say his name, is already there. And why would he, like, okay, unless Face is already activated, which obviously it isn't, because if that would be the case, then everybody wouldn't be able to fight, and Erza and all of them would get their asses kicked. But why didn't he activate Face already if he already knows where it is? Is that he can't find Face, or he's going to wait for Wendy to find it? Or, you know, what's up with that? Or is it just BS stalling for the sake of stalling? Because if he already was there before Wendy, he could have just activated Face, boom, all their threat is done. He wouldn't even need to fight or risk any of this. So either Ezel is a fucking idiot, and he's just doing it just for the sake of trolling. Hero's just BSing around and pretty much just trying to stall. Or he can't find face, or he doesn't know how to activate face. There's a couple different scenarios, I guess you could say, with that, because why else would he be there first but not go and activate it immediately? Or did he sense Wendy maybe, and he was like, oh, she's going to stop me. Let me just wait until she does something. I don't know, but that just kind of got me a little bit curious why he was there waiting instead of just going and activating face immediately and getting rid of pretty much all their threat in the world. So curious about that, but it does have a nice setup for Wendy versus Ezel. Maybe this is the time where Hero will finally have it so that Wendy fights on her own and possibly can come out on top. I don't know, like, because now that Tartarus is starting with, well, it's been on and off with Tartarus, but if Hero can make Tartarus, like especially this character Ezel, as strong as they're supposed to be, as they've been hyped up to be, then technically Wendy shouldn't defeat him. However, I would like for her to go full force, maybe activate just everything you could possibly think of, and hold her own at the very least to be able to destroy Face. And then, you know, after she destroys Face and maybe, like, you know, they're worn out or something, then somebody shows up, because I feel as though it's inevitable. Somebody is going to show up to help Wendy. I just feel as though that's how it's going to be. And with this chapter, it looks like, okay, they're a threat again. Everybody is fighting. Everybody's struggling. Sayla's kicking ass. Kyouka's holding her own. And, you know, Franmalth, fake Hades, is fighting as well. But for the most part, they've just been looking like a lot of times like clowns. Like they've been getting their asses kicked. So up until this point, I would have said just Wendy beat the living shit out of Ezel and keep it moving. But let's see where it's going to go. Maybe Hero has something structured where he's going to have Ezel and pretty much Wendy go at it until she could deactivate Face and then somebody shows up or something like that. I don't know. At this point, it's hard to say with Tartarus, because it's like, I don't know if they're threats or not, like as far as like how strong they are, because in some chapters it's like they're getting embarrassed and humiliated, Natsu's beating them and dog shit out of them, and then in some chapters they're owning and beasting. So it's really hard to say as far as what should happen at this point. I think at this point Hero has made it so like difficult to kind of call as far as like where their strength is, that we just gotta wait and see. But I'm guessing she's gonna have somewhat of a fight, so that's a decent setup. And overall with this chapter, while it didn't really have progression, it was just mainly fights, it did in a certain degree do something good. Like I said, I feel as though it made Tartarus look a little bit better than they have in a lot of the chapters, so that was a good point right there. And also it had a setup in the ending with Wendy. Still curious, why the hell didn't he activate Face already if he was already there? So question right there. How the hell is Natsu going to be able to stand up against Hades if he has Natsu's magic, or Franmalth? I gotta keep, you know, clarifying there. If he has Natsu's magic, then, you know, Natsu is probably going to be, I guess he's going to really have to rely on the power of friendship. Just saying. At least with this chapter, the characters are getting a little bit more of their integrity back. So I'm going to give this one 6.5 out of 10. For the most part, mostly fights, but it did give a little bit of a setup at the end, and it gave a little bit of the revelation, and I feel as though it was just giving some integrity back to these villains that they were supposed to be hyped up to be greatness, and at least they're holding in their own for now. But let me know what you guys think. First of all, how is Natsu going to be able to take him out realistically? Not talking about the power of friendship, of course, that might be a factor, but we'll just have to wait and see how that. What do you guys think will happen with that? Also, do you feel as though this chapter gave a little bit of integrity back, where Sayla's holding her own and Mira barely can do anything, and now Kyouka seems to be fighting back, even though it's like, where did this fucking second win the power come from? But fuck it. And at this point, how do you see Wendy fighting off Ezel? Do you feel as though she should be able to take him on, because we've seen in the past that Tartarus can't really fight? Or do you think that somebody should just come and help her? What do you think is going to happen with this whole Wendy situation? And why didn't Ezel already activate Face if he's been there before Wendy? But that's all I have for this review. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Thumbs up if you can't wait to see a little bit more of these fights with Tartarus, because like reading it in the manga is cool, but I definitely can't wait to see this shit animated, because I know this is going to be 10 times better and 10 times more enjoyable when it's animated. Because for me personally, I always say when it comes to fairy tale, anime over manga. I just really love the anime, and like stuff like this, a chapter like this where you seeing fights going on, it looks cool in the manga, but just imagine the anime with the colors popping, everything going crazy. It's going to look beast. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.